Come on.
Hey! All right,
Me too,
JessicaRules.com. I'm going to get it right after the show. My next guest is a high school senior who has been lucky enough to tour space stations, not in space, of course, but she has interviewed astronauts in space as a young member of the NASA.
You got it.
You should just have like a clever acronym like the YMCA or something. That would.
Then we could have a song.
You could have a song all to yourself.
I think we do need a song.
You do need a song. What is the acronym? YWNO.
That's
YWNO.
Young Women of NASA.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got a new star here, Bonnie Cameron. She's going to do her own song. So how did you get to interview Susan Helm? That's really cool. That was last week?
Well, that was last week at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that fabulous?
You had to get up.
I was a little groggy.
Now, but she was on the other side of the earth, so she was wide awake.
Yeah, she was like...
What'd you ask her?
Actually, what I asked her that was like the hardest part. Actually, talking to her was no problem. But what I asked her, we have a website and we have a forum where all of our viewers, all of our audience, young women, young men, can log on and they ask the questions.
So you were just their proxy.
So we got like 14,000 questions.
Well, let's see one of the questions you asked her. Let's see your, part of your interview.
Check it out.
With Susan Helm at the space station.
Thank you, Susan. Now we'd like to know a little bit about what it's like to be living in space. What's a normal day like for you? Do you have a specific schedule or specific tasks?
Well, I don't think NASA would get their money's worth out of us unless we were put on some kind of schedule. Basically, what we do is wake up about 6 in the morning every morning and work all the way up until about 10 o'clock at night. We have some breaks for lunch, breakfast, and dinner, and we do have some time available in the morning and in the evening to either get done with sleep or get ready for sleep.
Must have been so much fun.
Yeah, it was.
That's so cool. Yeah, and of course the audio is a little difficult, but I think you could understand what she was saying.
Yeah, there was some delay,
I heard the delay,
and a little bit of feedback, but you know, when you're
right.
talking to women up in space, you gotta allow for these technical difficulties.
Let's take a break, speaking of technical difficulties, but when we come back, I'm going to ask you what the most interesting thing she told you about, and then I want to find out more about this Young Women of NASA Council. That's really neat. Coming up with our guest, Bonnie Cameron, as a screensavers careens forward through space and time. Welcome back to the Screensavers. I'm Leo Laporte. Coming up in this half hour, we're going to show you our latest numbers on the 1.7 gigahertz Pentium 4. Is it faster? You might be surprised. Plus, we'll be speaking to the renegade himself, David Turetsky, the man who did a lot to promote free speech on the internet. But right now, we're back with Bonnie Cameron, astronaut reporter. Well, you report on astronauts.
Yeah.
Would you like to be an astronaut?
Actually, I don't think I could handle the whole closed quarters spaceship thing.
And the hair thing.
And the hair thing.
Whoa,
did you see the hair?
Yeah, straight up. Whoa.
All over the place.
She is with a group called the Young Women of NASA.
That is correct.
And you're a council member.
I'm a council
What does that
member.
mean, a council member?
That means that, well, they formed an advisory council so that it could be more student-based.
So the girls could have some input as well.
Exactly.
I think that's a
so
great
I'm
thing.
on that advisory council.
Right.
So that means I get to kind of do some of the work to host the chats, host the webcasts,
good for you. That's
gather
exciting.
questions. Yeah.
And with you, Trish Creek, who is the manager of, or director of Women of NASA. Tish Creek. So Women of NASA is the kind of umbrella group for the Young Women of NASA? Tell me about that. What is Women of NASA?
Women of NASA is a online mentoring project.
Oh, right.
And the purpose is to encourage young girls to pursue and persist in math, science, technology careers.
You really do need to do that, don't you?
Yeah, there's a real difference in the amount of men and women we have at NASA, especially in high-level technology
Why
careers.
is that?
You know, a lot of reasons. One of them could be stereotypes. It could be mentoring.
Yeah.
Our purpose is to try to mentor young girls to let them understand that they can do these kinds of things and they can be good at it.
Yeah. What do you do at NASA?
Well, I direct the project.
Okay. So NASA hired you to do this?
job.
Yeah. No, I'm sure that I'm
Yeah.
not implying it's not.
I do part-time. No, I pretty much run the entire project.
That's great.
So I decide on maybe who we want to feature on our website.
That's
I
neat.
manage the website.
You arrange for great interviews with like this one with Susan Helm.
Well, we started and we do, our advisory council is a new portion from about 3 years ago. And we formed that so I could have more of a student-driven focus because it really was kind of coming out of an adult's head.
Right.
So
No, I
now
think that's smart.
The girls kind of drive what we want to do now.
Yeah, so before the break, I was going to ask you, Bonnie, what was the most interesting thing you found out about their life in space?
Well, their life in space.
Or whatever you found out.
Well, my favorite part of what she said was actually when she was talking about, I asked her about her life before her NASA career, because that's
Yeah.
my favorite part.
Yeah,
Because I
how'd they
can
get
relate
into
to
this?
that,
Sure.
you know, because she's an astronaut, but she's a person. And I always
Right.
think that's the coolest part. And she talked about how when she was a kid, she got a lot of encouragement from like her teachers and her counselors, and
That's
like
great.
they were really helpful with her. So she even wanted to say thank you to them on the air, and she mentioned their names.
Oh, that's
and,
great.
And she talked about how being well-rounded was the most important part of
Mm-hmm.
being part of NASA. And so you never hear about that.
No.
You know, oh, you have to be good at math and science.
Right,
But
right. But it's more than that.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, that's a perfect example, Tish, isn't it, of what you want to see? I mean,
It really is. And that-
here's an astronaut who was brought along by
Right.
by women
Right.
who helped said you got to do this.
As well as Bonnie, too.
Yeah.
When she joined the council, she was interested in math and science. And then because of her interviewing scientists, she decided she wanted to go into broadcast journalism. And then she became
no.
our expert reporter. And yeah.
You got her. She's now. Oh, don't go on the. You're going crossing over to the dark side. Stay with science. Stay with science. Don't get involved in this thing. That's great. No, you're very poised, obviously, and very comfortable. I could see why you had her do the interviews even at 4:30
In the morning. Yeah,
I don't know how poised I was then, but
Yeah.
it
How many
works.
girls are involved in the Young Women at NASA?
We have 12 active members right now who are just our advisor council. And they're pretty much on the West Coast.
But the
because-
idea is to make it nationwide.
Well,
yes.
actually, what they do is they more or less help me manage the whole project. So
Right.
everything they do
Wow.
impacts millions of girls
Oh,
around
that's
the world.
Yeah, we push her around all the time.
Let's take another look at the interview with at 4:30 in the morning.
Practice my space gymnastics. I really love being up here in Zero G and having the opportunity to do all kinds of neat things you can't do on the Earth. And of course, one thing we all do all the time is look out the window because the Earth is just so incredibly beautiful. It's difficult to believe we're even here to see it this way, and we want to watch it over and over.
Bonnie, would you ever want to do
Nobody tired looking at the
what
Earth.
Susan is doing? Would you ever want to go up there in the space?
I think I like it better down here. I like the people. I like working with people better.
Right.
So,
Well,
yeah.
Obviously, it takes a lot of people to get a few astronauts
Definitely.
in space. So there's plenty
Thousands.
of jobs. What, Tish? What do you think the girls like Bonnie take away from this experience?
Well, first of all, I think that the number one thing I want them to take away is that these kind of careers are really fun.
Yeah.
And that we're not such a bunch of boring people.
It's not that dismal, boring engineer.
We have a lot of fun.
Nerdy.
We're always giggling and laughing.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Oh, well, this is a little different than Mission Control, I have to say.
Yeah.
Set up here.
Yeah.
But we want them to enjoy. Think it's fun. Want them to figure out a career that they really like, they can excel, that they want to do, they like to enjoy going to work every day.
That's great.
And want them to really use their brains to the fullest potential. So.
Okay, there's parents watching, there's girls watching, there's teachers watching. Where do they go to find out more?
Well, there's a couple of things. They can go to the Women of NASA site.
Okay.
Or actually, they can go to NASA Quest, which is even our bigger umbrella.
NASA Quest is neat. Yeah, I've
NASA
seen
Quest
that.
and Women of NASA is one of NASA Quest's projects. So really, the best thing would do would be just to go to NASA Quest.
Great.
And then from there, you can go to Women of NASA or any of our other projects.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to send everybody to the screensavers.com where we got links to all of those things. How about that? And I want to thank Bonnie Cameron, who's going to have a great career, I think, in broadcasting, for being here
Well,
today.
thank you.
Tish Creek, thank you so much for the work you're doing. I think that's wonderful stuff. But it sounds like a great organization that's doing exactly what needs to be done. That's
You're
great.
welcome. Thanks
And
very
for more
much.
information on Young Women of NASA, I want you to visit us, as I said, at thescreensavers.com. We got tons of information on the program. We even posted a few of Bonnie's experiences up there, too, so you can see a little bit more of what she's been up to. Coming up next, if you missed last night's show, we're going to do it again. They forgot to press the record button, so we're going to reveal our benchmarks.